Hello there. What is going on, everybody? It's Age of Sigmar time. We are going to be talking a little bit about the new Skaven Battletome and Warscroll cards today. I am continuing my coverage of Age of Sigmar 4th edition, and there's definitely a lot to talk about with this new Battletome and also with these cards, because if you are already noticing, these are way smaller than we have seen before. And I'm not really super pleased about these, but I'm going to show them to you. I'll let you make your own decision. There's going to be more Age of Sigmar and Warhammer coverage coming. There's been a lot of stuff I've been putting together, some of the new things, the Acolyte Globadiers, the Brood Terror new guy, and the Master Molder reprints for some of these. I did not have a Skaven army prior to Skaven Tide coming out, so this is all new stuff. It's a whole new faction. There's going to be some new armies of renown we're going to take a look at in here, and we'll look at some of the differences between these two. If you guys are new here to the channel, we talk a lot about tabletop gaming, and I'd love to have you stick around. We are doing a $50 Amazon gift card giveaway that's running through Halloween, so you have a chance to win that. All you have to do is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that. If you're new to Age of Sigmar, so am I. So we're kind of going through this together, but this is cool. So basically, the battle tomes are going to be the faction books that are going to give you some lore and also some rules for the army specifically. They're going to talk a little bit about, you got a lot of history, a lot of that lore, and a lot of the story behind these guys. Also, a lot of really cool art, great paint jobs on display in these books, which is very cool stuff. Most of it is actually just kind of that fluff, but it's until you get to kind of closer to the back, you're going to start to get into the rules. As it's talking about each of the different unit types, giving you a little more backstory on all of them, and then suddenly you're going to get to the rules. Now, this is the important pages here. This is, I think we're on page 70 already, so the first 69 pages were maybe like, just for the story. And again, there's plenty of story to get into if you want to do that. But if you're more interested in the rules, you want to jump to like the middle or the back third. So it's going to have all of your faction rules. Now, most of this had been released as a free PDF already, but there have been some changes. Most notably, there are armies of renown. So also new units are in here. So Vizek Scour, who's like one of the main new guy for all of the Skaven, is right here, and you can get all of his stuff. Now, he has a lot of stuff, and of course, that's going to be very interesting when we go to look at these little cards, how are they going to fit all of this on a tiny little card? Well, you'll see. We're gonna look at that here in a minute. But he's a priest 2, ward 5, and he has a nasty spell that can do a lot of interesting things, giving somebody 2 fight abilities with strike last, or subtract 1 from the attack's characteristics. There's a whole lot of stuff that gives somebody -1 to their attack, to their hit roll, but not necessarily to their attack's characteristics. So that's really interesting. And he's got the rampage as well. He's pretty nasty. He's pretty nasty, but I think he's priced a little bit high. They don't have points in this though. The points are usually a separate PDF because those change, and so they didn't want to print that. Although I think they should print the points in here. I don't know. I think that'd be cool. Maybe it's in here and I just missed it. Thankful on Bone Ripper is another one. I think he's just a reprint. I think he's already been out, but he's important for this. So we got, like, again, a lot of the big guys have full pages for everything that they can do. Plus they have the full art of them on there. And it's helpful because if you're new in getting into the game, it can really help you to remember just exactly how who's who. Oh yeah, that's right. That my guy is my Gray Seer. Oh yeah, that's right. I have a guy that looks just like that, although you might paint them a little bit differently. What I really like about this one that they didn't have in the free PDF is that this actually tells you what weapon is which. I actually have a unit of Storm Fiends that I had picked up, and I couldn't tell what weapon was what, and it's like they're actually outlining it here. And this is cool. Now, I eventually figured it out, but there weren't really any resources online, and I think this is actually really nice. It puts a lot more thought into this whole edition, minus, of course, the app debacle. I think the overall delivery of this edition has been overwhelmingly good. And so again, your more simpler units have like only a half-page ad. Now we're going to jump to there's Path of Glory stuff. Now, this is the campaign stuff. If you wanted to make your own hero, do some kit bashing and customize a campaign and have them grow and gain new abilities, there's rules for playing Path to Glory here. Anvil of Apotheosis or whatever it's called. Yeah, so pretty cool stuff if you're interested in doing that. But when we get to page 124, this is the important stuff. There are armies of renown, and this is basically a whole different way to run Skaven. If you've played Legion, if you played any of the other games that I cover, think of these as battle forces. or a sub faction or something like that. So you can run, if you want to run this Army of Renown, it's not going to follow the normal rules of Skaven. It's going to have separate sets of lore, heroic traits, battle traits, all of this stuff, and then you're only going to be able to use the characters in Skaven that are on the roster options. And so this first one, the Great Grand Gnawhorde, is primarily Visik Scour being like the only hero. Everybody else you have to run has to be non-unique, so not like a lot of non-hero units. Although that you can run heroes if they're generic heroes, but yeah, this one is going to be basically, I think, the easiest to approach as long as you have Visik Scour. Anything else you can run, pretty fine. Like, I don't have Visik Scour yet, although I guess I'm probably going to be heavily incentivized to get him since he has a whole Army of Renown that you can run him with if you want to, which is pretty cool. You also have Thanquol's Mutated Menagerie, which this one is if you have Thanquol on Bone Ripper, you can run that. You can run Master. This one is kind of different though. This one doesn't have as many generics. You don't have like the clan rats and stuff in here. This one is like more elites, like the Master Molder, the Rat Ogres, Hell Pit Abomination, Brood Terror, Storm Fiends, and you can. And again, with these, both of these, you can't take Regiments of Renown or faction terrain, so you're not going to be able to take your Gnawholes, which I think is interesting because they don't have Gnawholes available, and they're so incredibly crucial to running a Skaven army. So it's interesting that they put both of these out there now. This one is also fairly approachable to me because I do have a lot of this stuff. I don't have Thanquol on Bone Ripper, but I do have the Master Molder, Rat Ogres, and Storm Fiends. So I just picked up a Brood Terror. I don't have a Hell Pit Abomination yet, but yeah. So this is, again, this is possibly more approachable. And of course, they have their own battle traits and lore and manifestation lore and things like that, which is really cool. If you can get the endless spells for the Skaven. Let's go ahead and take a look. And again, if you get this, you're gonna, on the last page, you're gonna have a key that you can then unlock everything from the app. So that's the other benefit of getting something like this. But it's a really nice way to kind of look at your all your abilities and your. I think if you get this, you probably don't really need to have the card pack, but I like having the card pack available as well. So let's take a closer look at these cards. Now, this is a drastic departure from the way that the cards have been because they're so much tinier. Now, I've got some complaints because normally the card packs were this big. Again, look at the size difference, right? Massive size difference. And again, you used to be able to have a lot more information. And so they're spearhead cards. So I'm going to set those aside. I'm going to set the spearhead cards aside. And so here's like Visik Scour, right? This is that guy that we were just looking at. Now, we don't really have much art. We just have a little bit of the art on the top right, which is fine. It does say that's a Skaven Warscroll. Here, let me zoom in a little bit so you guys can get a better angle. All right, that's a little bit better. So it does have, the stuff that you absolutely need. You've got your health, your movement, your control, and your save. The little 5 up there is a nice touch to indicate he's got a ward 5, which is also written down here. He's a priest 2. You got your keywords down here. These are important. And you've got your color-coded reminders here, but it doesn't have the text of what these do. You've got his weapons, and instead of having the reminder text to the right of the damage, they're now underneath the name. So crit mortals there and crit auto wounds, and he's a companion for this part. So again, you've got all of the information except for what these bottom 4 abilities do. Now, those are written out on the back of the card, which kind of defeats some of the purpose of doing this, I think, personally. Because then you have to flip your cards over all the time. It's not that big of a deal. I think there's 2 ways to look at this approach. Because again, if we're looking at look at the size of the old Stormcast Eternals cards or whatever. These were much bigger. Of course, that's just one of them. But it was a massive difference. Here we go. Like here's the old size. And, table space is already at a premium. So if you're looking at it from a table space perspective, I think this is a huge improvement in that you're actually going to be able to fit these on the table a lot easier and thumb through them, since you kind of just have to look at the top right-hand corner to see who's who. You've got that picture there. And that's, that sounds pretty good. Especially as you get used to your army, you're probably going to learn what these things do, and you won't necessarily have to look them up. And maybe you only have to flip them over when the time comes to like, oh yeah, how did that work? Is that a may or a must or what have you? And so I think it's not a terrible way to do it. It's just very, very different. And because I am a new player, I have to read all of these every single time. So initially it's going to be an inconvenience for me. Although I think long term, this is probably a good way to go. But I have other questions and complaints. For one, they have spearhead cards in here, which is pretty nice. You know, they have the spearhead stuff for, well, one of the spearheads, but there are two spearheads. So this was the first spearhead, the one that came kind of new with the Skaven Tide box. But they don't have the cards, and they're I thought maybe they were double-sided, but on the back they are just full art on the other side. So, you know, we don't have, again, it's Clawlord, the Ogres. This is like what most of the stuff that comes in the Skaven Tide box. They have a whole nother spearhead box that's coming out. That's also, I didn't buy it because I have most of what's in there minus just one thing, and I don't really like to run duplicates very much. Now, there are not any other spearhead cards in here. They're all Skaven Warscrolls. All Skaven Warscrolls. All Skaven. Yeah, nothing else spearhead in here. I don't know if I was supposed to get other spearhead stuff in here or not, but that's really, really interesting. There's Thanquil. You know, we've got all of these guys. So this also makes it harder for these to be like scanned and then used like in some kind of third-party app, because you need the front and the back. But then again, you could just do that from the book if you were trying to do that. So, but it's a lot of cards. There's a lot of different units. I mean, Vermin Lords can be built multiple different ways. So you've got all of that cool stuff. So ultimately, it's an interesting option. And I think in long term, it will be a nice way to approach. All right, so that has been a quick look at the new Skaven Battletome and also the Skaven Warscroll cards. If you were on the fence about picking any of this up, hopefully this helped you make your decision. I think the Battletome is the more crucial one, and the Warscroll cards are more of a convenience. They're more optional and a little cheaper. But this, of course, has the added benefit of also having the code in the back. And I just did a video about this the other day about how to actually unlock the app content in your My Warhammer account, because there is a link on the back of this book that is incorrect. And there's a URL, there's a web address that does not go to the place that lets you put the code in. So you have to go to your My Warhammer page, log in, and then enter the code that way. I talked about that in a recent video. But the app has got its own set of interesting and I guess controversial decisions that have been made with it. But as far as the book goes, it's a really nice book. It is hardcover. They have been talking about making a soft cover book of these, and a lot of people really wish they would just have a digital version so people could just get the unlocks they want without having to necessarily keep a nice, thick, hard book that is not necessarily cheap. This was about 60 bucks. So, yeah, so that's a quick look at it. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below. If you want to see more Warhammer content, Age of Sigmar content, let me know in the comments section. I will talk to you guys later. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys help make this whole channel possible. I will talk to you later. May the Force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes. And always wash your socks.